Foreign Worker Support Coalition. Vicky Venancio, a temporary foreign worker, who's also affected by the 4-year cap. David Egan, NDP Caucus, Alberta. Wally Monique from Unifor Union. And of course, Bill McGowan, the president of the Alberta Federation of Labor. Clarice?
Is that okay for the media? Is that too much echo? It's good? Okay. Because every time, I'm Filipino, so every time we do this, it's karaoke time. Okay. Okay, so my name is Clarice Trescott, and I am the spokesperson and a volunteer for the Temporary Foreign Workers Support Coalition. I've been an advocate for temporary foreign workers since 2006 as well. We are here today to speak for migrant workers caught in Canada's broken immigration policies. April 1st, 2015 marks the day of the 4-year cap limit when foreign workers are expected to leave the country. This policy, like all the other dictates of the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, is so ill-conceived by the Harper government. It makes victims of innocent migrant workers and their children who are caught in this mess. The federal government, with their corporate friends, invited workers here with the promise of potential citizenship if they meet those requirements. And many met those requirements through the AINP, or the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program, but they will be deported anyway. The Alberta government has been so slow in processing provincial nominee applications that many lost work permits in the process. The Temporary Foreign Worker Program does not give immigrants, especially those in service jobs, any permanent residency rights. The program holds them hostage under the dictates of their employers and gives migrant workers no way out of abusive work situations. And when they get hurt, like Vicky Venancio here today with us, Harper's solution is to deport them, calling them a burden when they're not. They pay taxes like everybody else. The treatment of foreign workers today is un-Canadian. We are back in time to the treatment of Chinese coolies 100 years ago, where they are used, abused, and exploited and unwanted. We need to put a stop to this. Let foreign workers who are here stay in Canada and contribute as real citizens. Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the Alberta New Democrat Caucus and as the Labour critic in the Alberta Legislature, I just wanted to express our deep concern for the many thousands of workers that are facing deportation here in the province of Alberta in these next few hours and days and weeks. It's not lost on many Albertans just what a terrible circumstance we've created for ourselves here by using and abusing temporary foreign workers in such a way. If people are required to come to work here, as many have been for many years, then it has always been our policy and tradition to have immigration as an option. And for those that have that pulled out from under them, I think it's shameful, and I think that we can do a whole lot better. I think that we confused temporary foreign workers with disposable workers somehow, and that's really a shame, and it reflects badly not just on the work environment, but I think for all of us, we owe these people something more than what has happened here over these last few weeks and months. So, thank you.
So I'm going to give the mic to Vicky.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. My name is Vicky Venancio. I'm 29 years old. I came from Philippines as a temporary foreign worker to work in one of a fast food restaurant here in Canada. I'm supposed to be abducted by police cop also, but unfortunately I get accident. I get hit by the car and unable to work. So my papers get expired also, and I couldn't renew it because of my situation. And as other temporary foreign workers, I came here to help my family, and we plan that Canada is become our home also. But the current situation right now is it's really bad, not only for me but for the other temporary foreign workers, my friends and the people around me. That we just want to help our family and to realize our Canadian dreams. But what's going on right now, it's affect a lot for not only for us but also for our families. We serve the Canada, we give our best and become hardworking, and then they just gonna treat us like a burden, and they just gonna dispose us if they don't need us anymore here. So, right now we're still fighting for me to stay here also in Canada and waiting for the removal order from CIC. But we're still hoping that the Canadian government realize that this is not fair for everyone. This is not fair for the people who work hard for this country, and they just kind of dispose it like a rag. So we're asking still for your help to help us to stay here in Canada. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicky.
This good? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wally Vonik, and I'm an organizer here in Alberta with Canada's largest union in the private sector, Unifor. Our union represents over 305,000 workers across Canada in every sector of the economy, resource sectors, manufacturing, transportation, communication, and service industry. Friends, these are my friends. I'm here to deliver a clear message from my union. Unifor fully supports a path to citizenship for temporary foreign workers who are in Canada. We are opposed to the deportation of any worker who has only done a great job in this country through hard work and trying to continue to support our economy by paying taxes, paying unemployment insurance, and doing all those things. If you were invited to work in Canada, you are welcome to stay and make a life in Canada. Excuse me. That's immigration, and that's something our country was founded upon. That doesn't mean the temporary foreign workers program, isn't deeply flawed, and it is. That's why it needs to end. But Prime Minister Stephen Harper expanded the temporary foreign workers program with one goal: to create an underclass of foreign workers. Hundreds of unethical employers have been eager to take advantage of the program, and with often disastrous results. Unifor has been extremely critical of the program and its negative impact both on Canadians and migrant workers. We understand that hundreds of foreign workers who came here in good faith at the invitation of our government are now put in a very tough position, and it's emphasized by this upcoming deadline of April 1st. But that's not a deadline just for this one time. It's going to continue for these workers. My union was founded on the belief that all workers have a right to a safe work and decent pay and job security. We know that foreign workers are not the enemy. We will continue to stand with foreign workers and fight any government or company that treats them as disposable. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Gil McGowan. I'm president of the Alberta Federation of Labour. And we're here today on the eve of the federal government's April 1st deadline for temporary foreign workers. And on this occasion, I want to recognize two things. First, that this is an incredibly unpopular program with Canadians, and it's unpopular for a good reason. However, we in the labour movement make a distinction between the program and the people who have been brought into the country under that program. And so I'm here today to tell Canadians and to urge them that they should feel sympathy for the thousands of people facing the prospect of being sent home. And they should feel anger and actual disgust towards the federal government for the ham-handed way they've handled this file. It's appropriate for Canadians to sympathize with individuals like those you see here today, temporary farm workers, because quite simply, they've done nothing wrong. They came to Canada in good faith, they worked hard, they dreamed about better lives for themselves and their families. They don't deserve the lies, broken promises, and outright exploitation that they've suffered at the hands of the Harper government and many unscrupulous employers and fly-by-night labor brokers. However, while it is appropriate for us to feel sympathy for these workers, we cannot lose sight of what needs to be done. And what the federal government needs to do is to shut down the temporary farm worker program, or at least scale it back to what it was before they made the decision a decade ago to expand it to the form that we see today. We take this position because Canada does not need an exploitative guest worker program. What we need is real immigration. We also need better training, both in our schools and from employers, so that Canadians can benefit fully from the opportunities offered by our national and regional labour markets. The Harper government's dramatically expanded temporary farm worker program was never a good fit for our country. It was never a good fit because Canada is a country built by immigration. But make no mistake, the temporary farm worker program is not immigration, it's exploitation. The temporary farm worker program flies in the face of Canadian values, values like fairness, tolerance, and inclusion. It also represents a dramatic break from our traditional approach to bringing people into our country from abroad. For generations, we embraced an immigration model that welcomed newcomers as citizens, not as disposable workers. It's a model that has served us well for generations, but now, as a result of the Harper government's approach, an approach which I might add was never brought to Parliament for approval, as a result of that approach, we're now bringing more people into this country as precarious guest workers than as permanent residents and potential citizens. The reality for the vast majority of the 350,000 temporary farm workers in Canada today and the 85,000 temporary farm workers who are in Alberta today, the reality for them is that despite the promises made by politicians and the many employment brokers that they've dealt with, these people will never become citizens. Instead, their status is more akin to the indentured servants or the so-called coolies of the 19th century. The defining characteristic of temporary farm workers in Canada today is their lack of full mobility rights. For most of them, they can only work for the employer that brought them. Even if they're being cheated, mistreated, or underpaid, in most cases they don't have what Canadian workers have, and that's the right to quit and apply for a job across the street. This is exactly what many employers love about the temporary farm worker program. It has allowed them to ignore market signals about wages and to impose working conditions on temporary farm workers that would never be tolerated by Canadians. As I say, this is why so many employers love the program, but it's also why we, in the Canadian labour movement and the Alberta Federation of Labour, have so strongly opposed this program. We simply cannot tolerate the continued existence of a federal program that has facilitated the creation of a two-tiered labour market in which unscrupulous employers are allowed to use vulnerable workers to drive down wages, displace Canadians, and avoid their responsibilities related to training. That, for the labour movement here in Canada, is our bottom line. Canada needs to say no to a two-tiered labour market based on the exploitation of vulnerable guest workers. In other parts of the world, guest worker programs have turned whole economic sectors into low-wage ghettos. It starts with jobs that are already low status and low pay, like childcare and farm labor, and it makes conditions in those sectors worse. But if guest worker programs, like the one that we're dealing with for the last decade here in Canada, are allowed to flourish, the ghettoization creeps up the wage scale to areas like food service, retail sales, construction, and even sectors like information technology and healthcare. This is what we see happening around the world and what we're seeing in Canada today. When this happens, wages and job opportunities are suppressed and tensions between citizens and newcomers become inflamed. This has already been happening here in Alberta. A wide range of experts, from the Parliamentary Budget Officer to the former Governor of the Bank of Canada to the former Employment Minister Jason Kenney himself. All of these individuals now agree that the temporary farm worker program was being used by employers to suppress wages. Instead of using the program as a last resort, many employers were using it as a first choice for recruitment, especially in the low-wage service sector. The use of and reliance upon the temporary foreign worker program has distorted our labor market and artificially suppressed wages. Based on the evidence, the program was uncalled for in Alberta when oil was trading at above $100 a barrel. It is completely unacceptable now that the price of oil has collapsed and unemployment is on the rise. However, and this is the big however, while we think that the temporary foreign worker program should be scrapped in its current form, we feel strongly that something significant needs to be done to help the thousands and thousands of temporary foreign workers who are already in this country. They are just as much victims of bad public policy as the Canadians who have been displaced by the program and whose wages have been suppressed. With this in mind, this morning, on behalf of the Alberta Federation of Labour, I have sent a formal proposal to the Federal Ministers of Employment and Immigration. We are urging both of them to close off most temporary foreign worker streams going forward and impose new limits and restrictions on new streams like the so-called International Mobility Program, which has quietly been expanding and allows the growing number of foreign workers into the country without even the minimal oversight afforded by the mainline TFW program. But we're also asking the two ministers to let the temporary foreign workers who are already in Canada stay in the country. Most importantly, we believe that these workers should be granted permanent residency and eventually citizenship. As permanent residents or citizens, these workers will have full mobility rights within the Canadian labour market, meaning it will be much more difficult for employers to use them as pawns to drive down wages and conditions on individual work sites or across sectors in the economy. So the question is, will Pierre Poilievre, the Employment Minister, or Chris Alexander, the Immigration Minister, do the right thing when their predecessors would not? Will they hear our plea that Canada should be a country of citizens, not serfs? Honestly, I don't know. And based on their track record, I'm not hopeful. But we need to keep asking, and we need to keep lobbying. If the Harper government continues to mishandle this file as they have for years, then the only choice for Canadians will be to view this next election as an opportunity to end this sorry chapter in Canadian history and do it at the ballot box.
For those who have questions, now is the time to ask our speakers.
I have plenty, but just for audio reasons, we can't hear too well. So if you guys are free, that everybody that might be able to be free to chat and just interviews, that'd be preferable.
Any questions? Questions? Any questions?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Gonzalo Javier. I was once a foreign worker, and I got lots of friends who are now being sent home or being deported. Most of our concerns like this, like most of our foreign workers have worked like 4 to 7 years, right? And in that years, they have contributed like their Canada pension plan, every paycheck. It has been taken away. And now they're being sent home. So what will happen to their pension plan? Because as far as I supposed to be, it should be returned to them. Because they are temporary, so why take it away from them? And pension plan is supposed to be a retirement plan, and they're not retiring here anyway. So why not return the pension plan to those that are being deported?
That is actually a huge question, and it's a huge issue for a lot of temporary foreign workers. It just enhances the unfairness of the temporary foreign worker program, because we are bringing them here to work, to pay taxes, pay CPP, EI, and pay for health care, just like Vicky did. And yet, they are not given the same status and workers' rights as any worker in Canada. So I will leave that to the government body to answer.
Yeah, I mean, the federal government was collecting these funds, but there's no recourse for people who are obliged to leave under the temporary foreign worker program. So I think Clarice has summed it up very well. It illustrates the depth of the unfairness of that money, but of this whole situation in general.
I would just like to comment a little bit on that as well. I mean, this is clearly, when we talk about exploitation, Gil talked about the brokers and there's other foreign governments that really kind of model their countries to benefit from this. But let's be really clear here. The Canadian government has exploited these workers the same way by taking their money.
That's right.
Right? This is a great way that they get to support, our Canadian pension plan, knowing full well that these people, they'll never have to pay. So these individuals that have paid for 4 years, 7 years, 8 years, or the people that will be coming under this program, unless the government actually shows some leadership and shut it down, that they'll be paying into it for 2 years, they're going to benefit. Same thing is, geez, wonder how many millions of dollars they're making from employers when the employer applies for the LMIA, right? They're making thousands and millions of dollars off of that that's going into government coffers. It's all a way to make money off the backs of these workers. And it's just shameful. As a Canadian, it's shameful. We need to set a better example globally. I mean, our federal government stands up there and talks about, the terrorists and all the things we need to be as leaders. Why do we allow this to happen? Why do we encourage employers to take advantage of workers? Right? We should be standing up and taking a much stronger position, and the first position would be to end the program. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, thank you for coming, and feel free to talk to our speakers one-on-one. Thank you.
Good job, guys. Good job.